Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the August 18th Committee of the Whole meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Brunello.
Here.
Mr. Buffa.
Here.
Ms. Finney Brown.
Here.
Mr. Medic.
Here.
Mr. Minor.
Here.
Ms. Talbin. Mr. Teller.
Here.
Once again, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the initiative petition, an ordinance zoning property on Parkland Boulevard assigned permanent parcel number 863-20-003 as U7 headquarters or executive office park districts, and have a public hearing on the initiative petition. I would like to begin by reviewing the timeline of the project, going through the administrative process. So the Parkland Townhome Development Timeline, this is a summary on meetings that have taken place. Planning Commission, October 6, 2025, Mr. Greg Summers and Mr. Rico Petro addressed the commission about the 7.7 acres vacant land on Parkland Boulevard. City Council meeting special presentation, October 13, 2025. Mr. Greg Summers and Mr. Rico Petro discussed the 7.7 acre site that is adjoining the Rockwell headquarters. Mr. Petro stated that they have identified the site and have started having some conversations with Mayor DeSicchio and Jeremy Rowan, Director of Economic Development, about the potential and highest best use for the site. Mr. Summers and Mr. Petro explained that there is significant demand for low maintenance, high-end for sale housing. Planning Commission, March 2nd, 2026. Mr. Braden Thomas, Director of Building, stated that the Building Department has no objections to the proposal for the residential townhomes. City departments, engineering, traffic engineering, police, and fire have reviewed the project. Mr. Greg Summers stated that they came to the Commission and the City Council last fall with an informal presentation of the plan. After thorough discussion, Mr. Medic, second by Mrs. Horvat, made a motion to approve the preliminary site plan review for permanent parcel 863-20-003 for a new residential townhome community. City Council meeting public comment, March 9th, 2026. Assistant Law Director Schmidlin read motion C, a motion to approve the preliminary site plan for a new residential townhome community on Parkland Boulevard, permanent parcel 863-20-003. Mr. Medic asked for a motion to approve the preliminary site plan approval for a new residential townhome community on Parkland Boulevard, permanent parcel 863-20-003, subject to a modification to the language of page 2 regarding the path. Mr. Minor moved for adoption, second by Ms. Finney Brown. Roll call on the motion as stated. Ayes, Minor, Taliban, Teller, Brunello, Buffa, Finney Brown, Medic. Nays, none. Motion carried. City Council public comment, March 23rd, 2026. Mr. Greg Summers petition to rezone the Parkland Townhome Development parcel. Planning Commission, April 6, 2026. Mr. Thomas stated that on the agenda is the rezoning portion of the project for the proposed new townhome development on Parkland Boulevard. The applicant requested the rezoning to City Council. The Planning Commission will vote tonight to recommend approval to the City Council. Mr. Summers stated that they're here to present the proposed townhome project on Parkland Boulevard. The project has received preliminary site plan approval from the Planning Commission and City Council. Mr. Summers stated that this project will unlock the most appropriate and productive use of the site, as ground-up commercial buildings are no longer viable in today's market. Mr. Summers stated that he is here tonight to discuss the density requirements. The density does exceed the code, and he stated that the density should not be reviewed as a standalone issue and that every site should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. There were no questions from the board members. Mr. Thomas clarified for the board members that density requests will be handled by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The Planning Commission is only voting on the rezoning. City Council meeting, April 13, 2026. Chair Medic shared that there was a meeting last Monday, April 6, 2026, to review a rezoning request for the Summers Development Group at Parkland Boulevard. Board of Zoning Appeals, May 2nd, 2026. Mr. Summers stated they are respectfully submitting a request for density variance for the townhome project. This project meets or exceeds most of the design standards for a U2A1 zone district. The only variance they need is for the density. As there were no other questions or comments, Ms. Sabetta declared the public portion closed. She added that the board's decision requires action by council and will be presented to the council in resolution form at the next meeting, Wednesday, May 27, 2026 at 7 p.m. Case number 1258, Greg Summers, Summer Development Group LLC, variance request for the density variance. Mr. Brunello seconded by Mr. Eisenberg, moved to grant the applicant's density variance request to allow 7.92 units per acre in the U2A1 zone district, a variance of 3.17 units per acre. Board discussion. The board discussed the design of the development being a hardship due to the large setback from parkland and utilities. The board discussed that this is an area variance. They're allowed to have 36.6 units, and they are asking for 61 units. They discussed reasonable return on investment. Could they have even less units, say 50? Why the number of units at 61? The applicant didn't maximize the units for the project and will only need one variance as they meet all our requirements and will still have 51% open space. Roll call on the motion. Ayes, Brunello, Eisenberg, Sabetta. Nays, none. Motion granted. Said request is granted for the reason that the strict enforcement of the ordinance would impose on the owner a practical difficulty for the use of the property. Committee of the Whole, May 27, 2026. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the Parkland Townhomes with Summers Development Group. President Medic opened the meeting and invited Greg Summers from Summers Development Group to the podium. Public hearing ordinance 2026-12, May 27th, 2026 at 6:45. The public hearing for ordinance 2026-12 and an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Mayfield Heights, Ohio, so as to rezone permanent parcel number 863-20-003 from the current U7 headquarters or executive offices Park District to U2A1 Plan Unit Development Districts. Minimum 3 acres was called to order at 6:45 by Law Director Michael LaGrasso. Law Director LaGrasso opened the public hearing at 6:45 for the public to address council. President Medic shared that Mr. Summers will be scheduling something for the Woodhawk condominium. Law Director read a letter signed by multiple Woodhawk residents. Law Director LaGrasso asked if anyone in the audience would like to speak. There being no further business to be discussed by council, Ms. Finney Brown moved to adjourn, second by Mr. Teller. All in favor, motion carried. The meeting was adjourned at 6:50. The regular meeting of the council was called to order at 7 p.m. by Council President Matt Medic. City Council meeting, May 27, 2026, ordinance number 2026-12, an ordinance amending the zone map of the city of Mayfield Heights, Ohio, as to rezone permanent parcel number 863-20-003 from the current U7 headquarters or executive office park districts to U2A1 Planned Unit Development District, minimum 3 acres. Mr. LaGrasso read the ordinance by caption only. Mr. Teller moved for suspension of the rules, second by Ms. Finney Brown. The roll call on the motion as stated. Ayes, Finney Brown, Minor, Tullaband, Teller, Brunello, Buffa, Medic. Nays, none. Mr. Teller moved for adoption, second by Ms. Finney Brown. Roll call on the motion as stated. Ayes, Minor, Tullaband, Teller, Brunello, Buffa, Finney Brown, Medic. Nays, none. The motion carried and the ordinance was adopted. And the resolution number 2026-2029, a resolution approving the granting of a density variance by the Mayfield Heights Board of Zoning Appeals for Summers Development Group LLC, acting as an agent for Rockwell Automation, Inc., to allow for 7.9 units per acre in the U2A1 zoning district for permanent parcel number 86320-003 and declare an emergency. Mr. LaGrasso read the resolution by caption only. Mr. Minor asked for clarification if there's a conflict between the resolution and ordinance 2026. Mr. LaGrasso shared that there is no conflict. Mr. Teller moved for adoption, second by Ms. Finney Brown. The roll call on the motion as stated. Ayes, Buffa, Finney Brown, Minor, Tullaband, Teller, Brunello, Medic. Nays, none. The motion carried and the resolution was adopted. All of this is public record. This is a summary of meetings that transpired. All city council meetings are also recorded and available on our website for further detailed information. We also received a letter today from Corman Jackson Krantz that I will have our Deputy Clerk of Council read.
Members of council, my firm represents Summers Development Group LLC in connection with the Rockwell Parkland Townhome Development. After more than 2 years of public review, consideration by multiple city bodies, and unanimous approval of ordinance number 2026-12, Summers Development reasonably proceeded on the understanding that the city's zoning decision was final. A petition dated July 24, 2006, now seeks to reverse that decision after the referendum period expired and after Summers Development incurred substantial costs in reliance on city's approval. The petition therefore attempts to evade the charter's deadline and retroactively impair rights Summers Development required through substantial reliance on the city's final approval, exposing the city to claims for regulatory taking and the impermissible impairment of vested development rights. Section 1, the city's 2-year review and approval process. Summers Development came to the city more than 2 years ago with a proposal to redevelop the Rockwell Parkland property into a townhome community. Over those 2 years, Summers Development retained engineers, architects, and land use counsel and put the project through every stage of review required by the Mayfield Heights City Charter. Summers Development first went before the Board of Zoning Appeals, which considered the project's density and granted a variance permitting 7.9 units per acre. It then went before the Planning Commission, which studied the proposal and recommended it to council. Finally, Summers Development went before this council itself at a public hearing where residents had the chance to object to the proposal. Notably, no one rose to object. On May 27, 2026, after Summers Development completed each stage of the city's required review process, council unanimously adopted ordinance number 2026-12, rezoning the parcel from a U-7 to U-2A1 without an emergency clause. As the logical next step after passage of the ordinance, Summers Development reasonably relied on that final zoning decision and proceeded with the next phase of the project. During that time, Summers Development incurred substantial engineering, architectural, legal, and carrying costs. Section 2, the July 24th petition and the signature drive. Unbeknownst to Summers Development, while it was advancing the approved project, opponents were organizing an effort to challenge ordinance number 2026-12. On July 24th, 2026, nearly 2 months after the ordinance passed and after residents had an opportunity to object, a group filed what it labeled an initiative petition, seeking to rezone the same parcel back to U-7 and therefore repeal the ordinance. The manner in which the petition was circulated and the signatures were obtained also raises substantial concerns regarding the petition's validity. Subsection A, representations made to prospective signers. On July 19, 2026, Councilman King Minor incurred a paid non-resident circular tour outside a Mayfield Heights grocery store, soliciting signatures under the representation that the effort was intended to prevent residents' taxes from increasing. When Councilman Minor questioned that explanation, the circular tour disclosed that the signatures were being collected for a ballot measure intended to reverse council's approval of the project and showed him a prepared script to use in responding to questions. Councilman Minor, who was present for the vote, described the script as containing, quote, a good amount of untruths, close quote. The circular tour also stated that he had been hired to collect 650 signatures, a petition campaign conducted through material false representations concerning council's actions, and the purpose and effect of the petition cast substantial doubt on the integrity of the signature gathering process and whether the signatures obtained reflect the informed intent of the electors. It was also worth council's attention that basic questions about the petition itself remain open. Whether every circular tour affidavit was properly completed, whether every signer was a qualified elector, and whether the petition as filed contains the complete and accurate ordinance text the charter requires. These aspects are not technicalities, but go to whether the petition may lawfully be certified at all. Ohio courts have invalidated petitions on precisely these grounds. In Lynn v. Supple, the only decision construing this charter's petition requirement, the 8th District affirmed rejection of a petition for insufficient valid signatures and held the signatures missing a required precedent designation are invalid. Lynn v. Supple, 1956, Ohio. Section 3, the petition is, in substance, an untimely referendum. Even apart from the inaccuracy of the representations made during circulation, the petition presents a more fundamental legal defect. The charter gives Mayfield Heights electors two distinct tools within the legislative process, and each serves a different purpose. Article 8, Section 2 allows electors to force a public vote to repeal an ordinance council has already passed, but only if the petition is filed within 30 days of final passage. Ordinance number 2026-12 carried no emergency clause, so the 30-day period ran from May 27th and closed on or about June 26, 2026. No petition was filed during that window. Article 8, Section 1 allows electors to propose legislation on a subject the city has not yet addressed. The charter was not written to give an ordinance opponents a second opportunity to pursue a referendum after the applicable deadline expired. Despite the charter's clear distinction between a time-limited matter and initiative, the petition attempts to use the initiative process to accomplish what could have been pursued through a timely referendum. It proposes no new legislation. Instead, it asks voters to restore the parcel's former U-7 classification and therefore accomplished exactly what a successful referendum against ordinance number 2026-12 would have accomplished: repeal of the ordinance. Because the petition seeks to repeal the ordinance, it is subject to the charter's referendum deadline, regardless of how it's labeled. Accepting that workaround would mean that no vote of council is truly final, because opponents could seek reversal indefinitely by recasting an untimely referendum as an initiative. The resulting uncertainty would not extend beyond this project. Developers cannot reasonably invest, and lenders cannot reasonably finance that investment if a final zoning approval remains permanently contestable through relabeling. Subsection 4, vested rights and constitutional exposure. There's a second independent problem. Ohio law does not permit a municipality to divest a property right that has already been vested. Akron v. Chapman, 160 Ohio Street, 382, 386, 1953. Summers Development has vested rights in the project. Over more than 2 years, the company obtained a density variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, and a unanimous approval from this council at every stage without a single resident objection. In reliance on that completed, a unanimous approval process, Summers Development has incurred substantial engineering, architectural, legal, and carrying costs to advance the project. Summers Development's substantially good faith reliance is precisely what Ohio law protects. Reversing ordinance number 2026-12 at this stage would impair rights Summers Development acquired through its substantial reliance on the city's final approval and would apply the city's rezoning authority retroactively to unwind a decision the company reasonably and justifiably treated as final. Such action would expose the city and its taxpayers to claims from a regulatory taking and the impermissible retroactive impairment of vested development rights. Section 5, requested action. Ordinance number 2026-12 is a final, valid, enacted decision, and Summers Development has materially changed its position in reliance on the city's approval. The city should continue processing all permits and approvals to which the project is entitled and should take no action to delay, condition, suspend, or reverse the ordinance. Summers Development expressively reserves all rights and remedies arising from any action that impairs its rights in the approved project. The enclosed Summers Development position statement provides additional factual background and further explains Summers Development's position concerning the petition and the relief requested from the city. Should you have any questions or wish to discuss this matter further, please contact 216-538-8695.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. There were 15 other exhibits that were attached to this letter that we are not going to read tonight. Are there any questions from council? Mr. Minor.
Just a quick question for the law director. Based on that letter, do you have an opinion yet as to whether or not the goal of the petition is still governed by the ordinance related to our referendum timeline?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? We'll now move to comments from the public. We will now proceed to the public portion of the meeting. Pursuant to City Code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. However, please note that this is not the opportunity for debate or slighted comments. If you'd like to be heard this evening, please fill out the form at the public entrance. During the public portion, I will call each person wishing to speak to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and speak clearly into the microphone. It is now 6:31, and I will open the public portion. Thank you. So starting first, I have Phil Gard, 6433 Woodhawk Drive. Yeah, and if you hit the little button on the microphone when it turns green, perfect. So name and address for the record, and we'll get you started.
Yeah, Phil Gard, 6433 Woodhawk Drive. It's on the north side, and my backyard is split between the condos and the cemetery property. I haven't done this before, so I think the driving force in me coming was I also encountered an individual outside of a grocery store in Mayfield Heights and felt I was being lied to, so I felt like I should come and say something about that. I'm also an original owner. The person told me, as I think was previously mentioned, that if the reason that the petition was being circulated because the city, quote, was going to raise your taxes to pay for 60 condos. And no, I knew something about the project, but I knew that wasn't correct, and I read the materials and walked away. I also wanted to give a disclaimer. I don't work for the city. I haven't worked for the city. I've never met or spoken to anybody from Summers Development. I had the same experience 25 or 30 years ago, which is an unfortunate one. We thought our property behind us was completely cemetery, and came home one day from work, and lo and behold, trees are being knocked down and building is starting, and now we have condos kind of at an angle to us, but we have to keep our bathroom curtains closed at night because people can look right into the back end of our house. So I get it. I didn't like it, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes these things happen. In terms of the rezoning issue, I think it's pretty clear that people aren't coming into communities and building office buildings anymore. In fact, if you drive around the community, especially our community and neighboring communities, all you see is office space available. The opportunity that our city got to have an insurance company move in was I don't know, that came out of left field, which is great. But it's still, they were going into an occupied building. Nobody's going to come in. Nobody's going to swoop in and build more office space, from what I can tell. And keeping it zoned residential, to me, makes sense. I know what my taxes are. If the average price of these condos is, say, $650, that means the property taxes are going to be roughly $15,000 a year. Multiply that by the number of units, you're talking in the neighborhood of $900,000 in property taxes coming into the city, the school, et cetera. So my way of thinking, it makes a lot of sense to get something out of it rather than to have it sitting there unoccupied land. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gard. Next, I have Chris Samarijan, 6110 Parkland Boulevard.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Council. Appreciate it. Mayor. My name's Chris Samarijan. I'm the owner of Industrial Commercial Properties. We're at 6110 Parkland Boulevard. And candidly, we came to the site. It used to be originally an Elk and Elk facility, then an insurance group, and then we bought the facility and completely renovated it. We were in Solon, Ohio, and we wanted to be in the nicest office park in northeastern Ohio. And so we located there and spent millions of dollars between the acquisition and the renovation. And we have a beautiful place for our employees to work, and we've been growing over time. And I've been in the real estate business all my life. I graduated from Brush High School in '82, went to Kent State University, and then got right in the real estate business. So I'm familiar with the trends that are going on today. And unfortunately, most people are selling the negative, like they do in our country, that office is dead. That's complete and utter baloney. The office has bottomed out, and it's actually on the way back up. The reason AmTrust is coming to your site is because it's world class. It's the best place to be, and they don't want to be in an area that's got issues. They want to be in an area that's controlled. So if you look at when Allen Bradley came, they could have gone down to Chagrin Boulevard. Rockwell Allen Bradley, if you remember that, they came here because they wanted a park-like setting. Same thing with Parker. They came off of Euclid Avenue in Cleveland. Crawford's company came from Euclid Avenue in Euclid. They all wanted the best place to be. And usually, back in the day, Chagrin Boulevard candidly ate the lunch of every other community on an office basis. You have the best now. And what I'm afraid of, candidly, and what I think based on the decision you guys made, and I wish I would have known, because I only found out when it was in the paper, printed when you guys did the deal. So being a neighbor right across the street, I wish to God you guys would have came out and said, hey, look what we're considering doing. What do you think? And I would have given you good feedback. I bought my mother a place. She grew up in Alberta Park in Lyndhurst. I bought her a place at the corner at, give me the name. Bridgeport, thank you. I keep forgetting it. She loves it. They're $1 million places now. They're not $450,000. Anyways, all that being said, it's a world-class development. And now by injecting $450,000 is a lot of money. But for a new product today on the east side of Cleveland, it's not really. And these gentlemen who are building this, God bless them, they sell half their projects and don't even build them out themselves. Have you gone down and seen one of their projects? Have you touched it? Have you felt it? That's important. But the real issue is, would it work on Lander Haven Drive where the hotel is, or Bridgeport? That feels a little more mixed use. When you step into that office park, you want to be in an office park. You have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of investment. You got thousands of people working there, and you're going to contort it for 61 townhouses? It doesn't make sense. So again, they don't even own the property, so I appreciate the comments we heard about carrying costs. They don't even own it yet. Actually, they'll flip it to me if I pay them for it. So they're invested to a very light degree. And to my understanding, I could be completely off, but the park developer just lifted the covenants on the site in last November. How that 2 years of going on, it would have never gotten done if the park covenants were still in place. So kind of a perfect storm. The park covenants fell off because Mr. Davis is getting to a point in his life that he didn't want the management side of that. So the park covenants come off in November, and then these guys get slid in, and the three commercial neighbors across the street have no clue what's going on. So I am sure there's all kinds of legal arguments and communication, but don't you want the neighbors that are already invested, that own the properties, that have hundreds of millions of dollars invested, helping you make a decision on whether or not it's a good thing for the community? So 61 units, office is not dead. Believe me, you have the best office market. What you need to do, get the roads paved, help your developers who own some of the key facilities. You'll fill them all up. There's no question in my mind. I've leased over 400,000 square feet of office in my own portfolio in Ohio. People are leasing space. Everybody's playing the negative game to get what they want and try to forge some type of redirection like this. So I'm happy to get together with you after some other day, talk about it, help your community develop a master plan. There's a place for it if you want it. It's just not right there. I think it will degrade your Class A stock. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smerjan. Next, we have Jeff Davis, 55 Woodburn Drive.
Thank you. Jeff Davis, 55 Woodburn Drive. Chris already said a lot of things that I'm going to say, but I think it's important that some of the history be retold. I mean, it's almost 50 years ago that we bought the Lander Haven Golf Course in the Par 3 golf course. And our plan was to really develop it with condominiums and some, I think, 9 or 18 holes of the golf course. And we wound up, not quite as easy as Mr. Summers, but we wound up with 3 or 4 years of discussions with the city and going through the court system. We wound up not going ahead with the condo development for various reasons, and we wound up working with the city to do the executive office park zoning. And my dad, in thinking about it, said he didn't want a office area. He wanted a corporate park where we would have larger parcels, where we would have larger tenants. He did not really want the type of issues that were created in other areas with overbuilding by developers. And I think what you have today is Progressive Insurance moved here, Reliance Electric moved here, Snappy Car Rental were the first occupants. At one point, Progressive had 3 buildings in the park, one of which the company just leased, and other users followed. Alcan took one of the Progressive buildings. They were there for 17 or 18 years. They moved from downtown. Allen Bradley acquired 40 acres. I mean, the city cooperated with them so they could actually have a pilot line if that's what they wanted to do. After a large search in the Northeast Ohio area, Parker Hannifin acquired a large parcel for their world headquarters. You drive down 271, it says world headquarters. Materion and Park Ohio both selected Lander Haven as their headquarters. These are long-term commitments, millions, tens of millions of dollars invested in Lander Haven Corporate Center, not an office park. The zoning code, when it was finalized, required that we have protective covenants and create an association, which we did do. Keep in mind, Lander Haven does not have private streets or private utilities. Those are all dedicated roads and public utilities. The covenants were written to maintain the integrity of the development and protect my father's vision and the financial commitments that we made, as well as other people made to Lander Haven. With only 2 vacant parcels, ours and Parker Hannifin acquired a vacant parcel next to the 6,000 Parkland building. The city granted us permission to vacate the protective covenants only this past year, and agreed to assume the maintenance of the entry islands, which we were doing, even though they were in the public right-of-way. I trusted the city to protect our vision and maintain Lander Haven as a special location and a financial asset to the community. Bob Tribby used to tell me that Lander Haven was paying the bills for the city. Don't forget, real estate taxes primarily go to the schools. The income tax goes to the city. The city schools have benefited, the city and the schools have benefited from the millions of dollars paid in taxes. And as Chris said, yes, the office market can be tough, but I think it's all telling that when you when you approve the rezoning, you also approved a grant for AmTrust in the amount of $2.3 million. They're signing a 15-year lease, bringing 540 full-time employees. There are a lot of properties available, and they chose Lander Haven. I wonder why. It's special. I urge you to preserve this asset and the future financial benefits U7 headquarters or executive office district brings to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next, Diana Gresta.
I'm Diana Gresta. I live at 6320 Woodhawk Drive. I'm the very last house at the end of the street. We're going to be affected most. I will have buildings on one side of my house and all the way across the back. Then they're saying they're going to put a brick wall or whatever kind of wall going across to the neighbor across the street. You know what that's going to look like? You know when you go to Target and they have that building, that brick wall, and then there's apartments over there. I don't think that's going to look right. I don't like the idea that I have people that are going to be able to, like he said, pull your shades. That means the whole side of my house. So I don't want to live like that. I'm going to be totally blacked in. And I have been told for years, if you have an issue, contact your council people. I did. We had 2 people show up at a meeting. I got a call from one of them that couldn't make it, and I did send to 3 more council members and never got a response. So if we're supposed to take our concerns to council, are you answering? Are you listening? No, the majority. So think about that. Not happy with this, and I'm disappointed in the council members that couldn't even email me back. I'm not happy about the whole thing. We're going to be totally surrounded. I don't like it. And you had over 2 years that you were dealing with Summers, and we find out a few months ago? Why weren't we asked to, give our opinions? Did anybody call, contact, send a letter, come to the house, anything? No.
Thank you, Ms. Agresta. Next is Robert Agresta.
I'm Diane Agresta's husband. What she just said, I agree with. I don't have too much to say. But the condos that you're building, it's going to look like army barracks. They're all the same. They all look the same. And the setbacks, I don't understand the setbacks very well. And I don't approve of it either. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Agresta. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to City Council? That is the last of the forms I have.
I actually did not put my name on the list, but I'm Ivona Golczak. I am from 6350 Woodhawk Drive. I just want to support my neighbor, Diane, and I just wanted to refer to Mr. Sommer's letter where he claims that there was no opposition filed toward his project. I think on May 27, I believe that when the meeting was, we were here, but the meeting was going so fast, we didn't know what's going on. We didn't know what the agenda on the meeting is, what the timeline is. We were surprised that the voting actually happened at the meeting. We were just surprised, that's why we didn't speak, but we sent a letter, opposition letter, signed by 12 or so neighbors. We still oppose this development, and we did not change our mind. And some of us are here, some of us aren't, but we hear more and more from other neighbors on our street that most of the people are not happy, and that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Yes, you'll just step up to the microphone.
Something I forgot to mention before. The 61 townhomes on 7.7, whatever it is, anybody who knows the neighborhood well will know what that would amount to, which is, if you look at Cedar Road and the homes on the Mayfield Heights side, there's about 10 or 12 houses on that section. Each lot is 1 1/3 acre. So take about 6 to 7 houses out of that and stick 61 townhomes on that much property. Picture that. That's what we're going to have back there. And on top of it, I asked, is that age restricted? No. All right, that means there's going to be families, kids going to school. There's going to be buses back there. There's not sidewalks. That's going to be the kids walking in the streets and playing out in the street where all these hundreds of people work. So think about that too.
Thank you, Ms. Agresta. Thank you. Mr. Jordan Burns, 3210 Enterprise Parkway, Beechwood. Mr. Burns.
Thank you. I'm here tonight. I was planning on being an observer. I represent industrial commercial properties and the Agrestas in connection with administrative appeals that are pending relating to the variance that was granted to the developer here. But I feel compelled to speak to a few points that have been raised this evening. Just by way of background, as some of you may know, I've been practicing for the past 25 years or so. My career as a land use and zoning lawyer, but not as a lawyer. I was a lawyer for 10 years before that. My career as a land use and zoning lawyer started in large part litigating with the city of Mayfield Heights over the location of Costco along I-271. I generally represent developers in their efforts to have the opportunity to use property the way they wish. So I am particularly sensitive to some of the comments that have been made here tonight, to some of the procedure that was undertaken here, and especially to some of the comments that were made by the attorney for the developer here, and that were read into the record. So let me address some of those comments, and I'm happy to do that in a more detailed manner in a letter that can be shared with council. I think there were really 3 or maybe 4 primary issues raised in that letter. First was a question about the validity of the petition itself. I'm going to make short shrift of all of these if I can, because I know you have a time limit. The validity of signatures is ultimately determined by the Board of Elections. Your charter requires a 2-step process for an initiated ordinance to appear on the ballot. That process requires signatures from 10% of the electors who voted in the last election. Those signatures were validated by the Board of Elections. That's why we're here tonight. That's why you scheduled that. That's why you're considering this. The idea that there were misrepresentations made in connection with the collecting of those signatures has no bearing, the claim, even if it were so, has no bearing on the validity of those signatures. Number 2, there was an assertion that there is a referendum provision in your charter and an initiative provision in your charter, and that somehow those 2 are alternatives, that the zoning of a piece of property or any ordinance can only be addressed through one of those 2. It's just not so. You have a referendum process in your charter that allows for electors to challenge an ordinance that you have passed. Separate and apart from that, you have an initiative process that allows electors to propose an ordinance. I heard, if I was listening and understanding what was said, I heard an assertion that the initiative process doesn't apply to an ordinance to a matter that's already addressed in your ordinances. It's not so. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything like that. It doesn't say anything close to that. An initiative can propose an ordinance that repeals or contradicts an ordinance that's in your codified ordinances. That's the very purpose of the initiative provision of your charter. You won't find any language that prohibits somebody from proposing an ordinance on a matter that a month, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years earlier was the subject of an ordinance that could have been challenged by referendum, because it doesn't exist in your charter. Lastly, and this is one that hits particularly close to home, the idea that rights of the developer here have been vested, and therefore city council is constrained from considering the ordinance. And if the ordinance that's proposed by initiative is passed, that the city is going to get sued. As I tell my podiatrist brother-in-law, you can get sued for anything. But as much as I would like, as a lawyer who primarily represents developers, for the law to support a claim against a city for changing the zoning of property after a developer has spent money pursuing a project under the then existing zoning, the law doesn't work that way. In this particular instance, the developer sought and obtained a change to the city's zoning code. That's the process that it followed. That doesn't create a vesting. That's the start of the process, and the electors here would like you to consider changing that for all the reasons that you've heard tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Is there anyone else? We will now close the public portion. It is now 6:56. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Bonello.
Second.
Second by Ms. Finney Brown. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone. It is now 6:57, and we are now adjourned.